I'd like to go ahead and call this meeting to order and establish a quorum.
Board President Sarah Hines.
Yes.
Board Clerk Tess Arthur.
Yes.
Board Member Anne-Marie Rosen.
Yes.
Board Member Seabury Nockbar.
Yes.
Board Member Carl Palestrini.
Present.
I'd like to thank everybody for being here this evening. This is our special meeting, November 29th, 2022, regarding the stadium lights. I'd like to notify our audience this evening that this meeting will be audio taped and live streamed, and as you heard earlier, we also have Spanish translation. May I please receive a motion to adopt the agenda?
I move to adopt the agenda.
Second.
Board President Sarah Hines.
Yes.
Board Clerk Tess Arthur.
Yes.
Board Member Anne-Marie Rosen.
Yes.
Board Member Seabury Nockbar.
Yes.
Board Member Carl Palestrini.
Yes.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and do the Pledge of Allegiance. Why don't you go ahead and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Behind you.
Thank you. We'll move on to agenda item E. This is public comment and closed session items. So this evening, members of the public may address the Board of Education regarding closed and open session agenda on the agenda item at this time. Where the board has agendized a separate public hearing as part of a meeting, which we're not having this evening, you would have the opportunity to comment there. So tonight, I'd like to let everybody know that the board is committed to maintaining a respectful and productive environment that fosters a culture of civility where staff, teachers, members of our community and the board feel safe to express themselves and are free from any bullying, harassments, and/or threats. We hope you all act accordingly this evening. The board is excited that you're all here tonight. We welcome all of your comments. And you will all be allotted 3 minutes to speak this evening. I will apologize in advance for interrupting you when the buzzer goes off. If you could please wrap up your statement or your comment after the buzzer, that would be great. And again, I'm sorry to have to interrupt you, but I want to make sure that everybody has equal time this evening. So with that, we will lead right into public comment with number 71.
Good evening. My name is Jonathan Lyons, and it is my honor to represent Carmel High School as the principal. By now, the arguments for and against the installation of stadium lights have been made. As a reminder, those of us here tonight in favor of this addition to our school, our home, see this as an enhancement with a multitude of benefits. It means safer practices, increased time for students to get needed instruction from coaches to be competitive at the highest levels, and yes, opportunities for increased school-wide participation in support of our football and soccer programs. But I want to take this opportunity to thank our students, staff, and parents. It is not often you see a school rally behind an improvement to the campus. In what world would you imagine that this many students sitting at a board meeting to voice their support for something that most of them will not reap the benefits of? Yet here they are, to show you that this matters, that this is more about what we want our school to be. This shows that our students have used their voice and let their opinions be known. It has been one of the great teaching moments of my career. Education is about showing our students the right way to make change, to work within a system to move your ideas forward. These students have rallied, spoke articulately at prior board meetings, and have done so respectfully. While we are hopeful you will support them in this vote tonight and approve this next step in the Stadium Light Project, it is in the journey to this moment that we have done our teaching. These students come here tonight to let you to know that they have a say in this community as well. that they are equal partners in its future and should be given the same level of consideration as those who have lived here longer than they have. Our staff is here tonight to support our kids. It is the great strength of Carmel High that we all believe that we are here to support, care, and challenge our students. I tasked our ASB a year ago to not lose faith, and that if they worked at it, they would get their moment. It is now time for you to consider whether it is in the school's best interest to move forward and give us the needed improvements to give these young men and women the best we can. Aaron Sorkin wrote once that decisions are made by those that show up. Well, here they are. They have shown up. The decision to support them should be clear. I am so proud of them and can't wait to see what our school looks like in the fall with these needed adjustments. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Excuse me, this is not supposed
I'm
to
sorry.
be-
I'm
this is
sorry,
not
sir.
supposed
I'm
to
sorry,
be-
sir. You are out of order. I need you to take a seat,
This
please.
is out of order.
I am
This
sorry,
hearing
sir.
is
I
out
am
of
sorry.
order.
You're going to need
This
to
is
sit
an
down. You are
unprofessional
going to need to sit
display.
down. You are out of order. Sit down. I have reminded everybody at the beginning of this meeting to please be respectful to one another. Everybody will have their 3 minutes. What happens before or after those 3 minutes, I expect respect from everybody in this room towards one another. Number 72, please.
Hello, my name is Alondra Klemick. I am a parent of 2 Carmel High alum, 2015 and 2019. I love the happy noise. Cheering to me is always a good thing. I invite anybody who has anything to cheer to always do that. So I am here to support the lights at the Carmel High School Stadium. Having been a parent who has gone through night games, having to travel to remote locations, to the South Bay, to the, King City, Chular, Gonzales area, and getting back at 10 o'clock at night to our games during the week. And then we're lucky enough that we only live 20 minutes, half an hour away, but there's kids that live in Kashawa, that live in Big Sur, that once they get back here to Carmel High, they still have to make their way home along windy roads, dangerous conditions, sometimes in the winter, especially in the rain, the wind, exposing our kids and their families to these dangerous conditions, and then still getting home at 11 o'clock at night, having to wake up the next morning and go to school. The lights at our school, at Carmel High School, would enable them to at least have the opportunity to have some of those games at home, get home earlier, get their homework done, and be, able to go to school in a good way the next morning, happy, healthy, and rested. I also noticed it was interesting that I went to a Civic Grove High School football game in October, and they have lights. The lights were all focused on the field, and being conscious of what's going on here, I took note of all of the surrounding homes. Homes that you could see from the field, they were shrouded in darkness because the lights are focused on the field, as I believe these are going to be as well, or intended to be. Those homes during Halloween time, their Halloween lights were on. Those were the only lights you could see in these homes that literally were within sight. So they were not being affected by the stadium lights. The kids, of course, enjoyed their games and were able to get home in a safe way. It just would be such a shame to deprive kids, because I don't have kids at Carmel High anymore, but I do have lots of nieces and nephews, lots of friends with kids, and just our community. Our community takes care of each other. So I would hope that, the right thing is done and these lights are approved for the benefit of our school and future generations. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Number 73, please. Number 73. Number 74.
Hello, my name is Charles Wally. I live in Carmel Views, and I am opposed to your lights. This, as I understand it, we're supposed to talk about comments on the final EIR. So here are mine. They're simple and short. One, the timing of this process was ridiculous. It could have easily been done so that the review process didn't fall over a holiday weekend. The initial comment period didn't fall on a federal holiday. And as a result, I think a lot of people have no idea what's in it. The second is the document itself is unbelievably complicated and long. And I know why that is, but I think it could be a lot easier to use. One simple thing you might have done is provide a guide to how to use the document. That's what most agencies do in all routine applications, and that would have saved a lot of people probably hours or days of banging their head on the screen. Then as to the EIR itself, two things jumped out at me. One is in the visual pollution issue. I and others had raised the problem that the simulations were done in places that are not really realistic or the most likely to be used and seen. And the answer was, we don't have to look everywhere. Really? Because it cut out all the residential areas explicitly, and the answer is we don't have to look at it. And the final one had to do with the alternatives, which I and others proposed a number of different variations on the options that you had proposed. And the answer was, nah, we're not going to look at it. And anyway, CEQA does not require us to be creative, because that was a word I had used, hoping that you might do that. So that tells me a lot. I think it probably tells a lot of people a lot. And then finally, in the minute left, I want to get in a time machine and go back to over a year ago when I stood here in the first meeting and said, someday we're going to get to the point where we're deciding this not on data, not on gaps in the EIR, all that stuff, but on values and on people's perceptions of what's important and what isn't. And those include long-term thinking about what we're doing to this area for the future, about intergenerational benefits and costs, and finally about empathy for your neighbors. And I'm not seeing it. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Number 75, please.
Good evening. I'm D.L. Johnson. I'm here representing the Transportation Agency for Monterey County. We have been following this process very closely because eventually, whether you approve it or don't approve it, we will still have to look at many of the drawings and designs and the ideas of traffic movement throughout this area. I have worked very hard with Carl over here on traffic issues. He knows that I've been working hard trying to represent this community to resolve issues, especially at Ocean and Highway 1, because of the highway location of the high school is in my opinion, is dangerous every day for the young people. And also in the junior high out here because they lack a Class 1 trail coming to the high school for young people to ride their bikes to school. So I've been here, but I'm also been I was a 42-year high school band director. And in 42 years, I went to a lot of football games. And I taught both at high schools with lights and high schools without lights. And there are problems with both. There are good things with both. And really, it all kind of evens out as I look beyond it. But as I address traffic issues, I was telling Carl the other night that your issues are not going to exist when the games are out because you don't have the traffic outside the along Highway 1 at 10 o'clock at night. Traffic will not necessarily increase either, although we all know it's very heavy in the afternoon when people are coming to the game because people gradually come to games. They don't suddenly leave all at once. or come all at once, I should say. They leave all at once. So the traffic will be fine. I think your biggest issue will be parking, and that's about it. That's all I can see. But I want you to know that as a former high school band director, those games are fun no matter whether you do it on Saturday or Friday night. But I know that as a band director, I preferred Friday nights because it opened up Saturdays so we could do things with the kids in other programs. And I would also like to say, I have 30 seconds. I'm very happy to see these high school kids behind me because I'm an expert on China. I took my high school band to China 5 times. And I know today, in their country, their young people are doing the exact same thing these people are, but they're talking about freedom. And these young people, I'm proud, they're exercising their right as young people to express their emotion. And by the way, as a high school band director, I support your lights.
Thank you for your comments. Number 76.
Good evening. Everybody needs to understand that the people who live near the high school never wanted to be pitted against our students because we do support them and their healthy sports programs. We also love being near the school and using its facilities. After all, we help pay for them. That's where the money comes from. But beyond the stadium lights, we've always felt that safety has to be paramount if you're going to move into nighttime activities. It's such a small, overcrowded campus already, isn't it? Having to use neighborhood streets for spillover parking has increased our concerns because we don't want to see anyone get hurt moving to and from their cars on either side of Highway 1 before or after a game. In what world would you expect 2,000 pages of public comments and concerns that you didn't even try to respond to the EIR in this process? All you did was quickly clean up some errors that we pointed out for you in your 400-page draft. And you acknowledge you're going to cut down all the cypress trees along Highway 1 in front of the school, and you're going to change the dark skies character of the neighboring Carbell community, to which you just say, too bad. But you also skipped some important steps with regard to foot and vehicle traffic flow and parking and safety. You're not acting in good faith with transparency, and you openly resent people asking you for it, and you whine about that. So you want to know what you left out of the final EIR? You haven't openly shown us emergency access routes for potential tragedies like we see happening all over the country. We're only allowed to see unrevised routes by appointment. You have no state-approved fire and life safety plan. You showed us no approved roadway plans from the Division of State Architecture's office. And there's no enforceable traffic mitigation plan to address the increased nighttime traffic on dark, curvy, narrow residential streets. Your new parking proposals aren't even enough for your current daily traffic and parking shortages. There's no revised budget either, including legal costs, which, oh, by the way, wouldn't be necessary if you just did things the right way. Example, we found out from county offices on Wednesday last week just before Thanksgiving that your blanket declaration of exemption from local construction rules by the county was sent to the wrong office. So you're going to be like somebody building a house without a permit. And if it ever is approved, you still can't exempt yourself from California State Fire and Life Safety. My handouts tonight will show that you're not in compliance in a number of areas. So you are inviting more delays in getting started. Like a high school civics 101 case study on how not to work with your neighbors. We know you want to ram this thing through, but you should really be showing everybody in the room that you're doing what's best for the community versus satisfying some short-term shallow desires. And don't endanger public safety because what goes around comes around. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. And I'd like to acknowledge for the record the final EIR public comment document that was distributed to all of the Board of Education members. Number 77, please. Number 78. 79. Number 80. Is there anybody here for public comment who has not yet spoken and that would like to? What number? Sorry. Let's go with 81. I think that was the closest to where 91. Why don't we just go through? If you guys could just come up individually. I think we lost our number count, so please raise your hand and please come speak. Why don't you go ahead, ma'am?
I'm number 88.
Okay, thank you.
I've spoken before. My name is Belle James. I live right across from the tennis courts. Outside I asked where I could buy one of these T-shirts that say lights on them, and I was told that they were passed out by the school. Who paid for them? I don't know. I'm not impressed when things are passed out at school for free, because they were told that they were free. I wanted to reiterate some of the comments I made in the past. Let's see if I can read my own writing. The first comment I ever made to Dr. Knight was, doesn't matter what the community comments are, you're going to go and do what you want. I guess letting us make comments makes us feel good. Thank you. That's sarcasm. I have to warn you, I am a very sarcastic person. I asked about fixing the trail from the baseball parking lot up to the school grounds. And I was told at a meeting that it was too expensive. So it was too expensive to fix the trail. But we're adding lights, we're putting in a 2-lane road, we're taking out the tennis courts for parking, we're removing the building where you store things and relocating it, putting bleachers up on top of that, but we don't have money to maintain the trail. Jeez, okay. I live on Morse and have neighbors with very young children starting at the age of 1. And nighttime parking scares me. I have to congratulate you because I did complain about the event parking signs, and they were always over 2/10 of a mile away from me. I'm right across the street from the school. If you're going to walk, park your car on the street, you're not going to park 2/10 of a mile away when there's parking closer. So this last game, you put a sign in front of my house, and I appreciate that. Thank you very much. The signs say no event parking, not no football parking. It implies the fields can be used for non-school events. If I sound out of line, just remember that they rent out the theater to the Bach Festival. So, hey, kids, they might be using your football stadium at night, not just for your events. Tennis courts were built with local support. There's a sign up on the courts that say who's helped support this. So the courts are used by locals and classes. The rationale for getting rid of the tennis courts was that football will need drives. Oh God, I'm way out of time. So goodbye to tennis courts. Hello, footballers. Geez, I'm glad. I've seen tennis players playing tennis. Anyway, I just wanted to say thank you for listening to me about cleaning out the drains, because the runoff from the road in the city of Carmel, they require permeable surfaces, and I hope you take that into consideration if you put your driveway in. And also, if you go ahead with the
comments. Thank you for your comments.
Sorry.
Sorry about that. Thank you. If anybody is holding a ticket from 80 to 88,
Say I'm 87. I'll finish my comments.
we already heard your 3 minutes. Is there anybody else between 80 and 88? Please, sir. Thank you.
Board, I'm Larry Arthur. I live in the Carmel Views, and I have
line of sight and also line of ear to events at the stadium. I want to thank all the students for showing up. This is fantastic, and I appreciate your involvement. Know this, number one is my concern for our local environment. And, long ago and far away, Mark Twain said, land is a pretty good investment because nobody's making any more. What we do to our earth, what we do to our properties, whether they're public or private, has a profound effect on the world. The changes that have been presented here in a document of 2,000 pages and more, which I'm sure, how many of you read the final DEIR? Hands? Okay, a couple. There's so much opportunity for correction along the way, if you will. And the thought I want to leave you all, particularly our younger generation, is that the things that we do today at this historic meeting on this historic date are permanent. These are changes that are going to be remembered and you'll reflect on for quite some time. They are the legacy of this board. They will become the legacy of this board, and also, Dr. Knight, your own. And we need to think very carefully about this, because when we take out a tree, when we pave over the earth, when we withdraw a resource that's been valued by the community, when we make permanent installations that can be seen for miles, and we make noise that is at an uncomfortable hour for our greater community, we should give pause. We should find out a better way to do this, and we definitely need the involvement and leadership of our younger generation and our students to safeguard what is special and what is unique and known worldwide for Carmel, the city thereof, and also the Carmel area. So be proud of that first and foremost, and realize that you've been given a wonderful opportunity to be here. And in my opinion, there's nothing more special than attending a football game on a Saturday with that majestic view of ocean and mountains. So think about that. Think about the value and what we're about to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. So I'll pick back up with 88 and continue with 89.
Good evening. My name is Mark Holbrook. I did submit a letter to the EIR thing. The response was flawed on a number of counts. And one of the things I would like to say or focus on is the lights. You say that it is dark sky compliant. There was a change in May of 2022 that you can no longer use any light higher than a 3,000 K. You have 5,000 K lights picked for your stadium. You're going to have to change that. Okay. Additionally, the lights will not be certified. They can't be certified here no matter what they are, because you have to have zero humidity for a certification. This is directly from the Dark Sky Association. So you're telling people you're not going to see the lights, they're going to see the lights. So there's several more things, but we'll get to that at a later date. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Number 90.
Hello, thank you. I'm Joanne Holbrook, and I have 13 other family members behind me. There was things, only 30 people keep speaking. Well, there's a lot of other people that behind me that are saying these same things. I want to respond to the responses that I read about the ERI, and the topics that were of importance seem to be ignored or discarded because they were not an environmental impact. But these topics are of culture, of livelihood, of community concerns, and other very important considerations. Your CHS website states, Carmel High School is located within the city of Carmel. It's not. And the city of Carmel is light. They don't have lights. So if you're going to work with the city of Carmel, work with the city of Carmel. And then your website also states that this school is known for these views of the Santa Lucia Mountains and a of Point Lobos and the Pacific Ocean. Well, I feel if you vote yes to the lights, and these are comments from the Monterey Herald this morning or yesterday, that if you're voting yes for these lights, you are saying yes to light pollution over the whole Monterey Peninsula on foggy nights. You are saying yes to glare on the neighboring homes that can reach really anywhere that you can see. So all the hillsides, out to the valley, even down to Carmel Point. My son took his drone up 80 feet. You could see the Carmel Point. So light, it's going, you're on a mountain, you're going down. You are also saying this will be a threat to local wildlife and habitats. You are saying yes to a potential a disruption to historical and cultural resources. You are saying yes to an increase of noise and traffic during construction. You are saying yes to inadequate parking during games. And I did not see what was addressed in that article, anything about the safety of attendees walking to the stadium during dark. So I get the National Geographic, this is 2008, end of night, why we need darkness. And here's Chicago on a foggy night, and you can just see the whole thing glows because it disperses in fog. That's what their fog is. And then one picture more. Because this is the end of my sentence. This is the St. Louis Arch that beams down, but they turn it off on a foggy night. They turn it off when things migrate. We have butterflies migrate. We have birds migrate. But you won't turn these off if there's a game going on.
Thank you for your comments. Thank you. Number 91.
Hey, I'm Maddie. I'm a senior at Carmel High School. I played football on the soccer team, and then I throw for track. I'm also a part of the Student Athletic Council, leadership, and sports medicine. Because of my involvement in so many different groups on campus, I've heard and am aware of how important getting stadium lights is to myself and my fellow classmates. As Mr. Lyons led with, the arguments have been made, and you all know our reasoning for getting lights, and I trust that you understand it's about more than football. For our entire student body, really. Even tonight, our basketball team, who couldn't attend, are warming up in the Lights, Lights, Lights t-shirts that were made on campus with the help of the art program. So students brought their t-shirts, we got them printed by our art teachers and different art students, and it really just shows that it's not just the athletic teams that see the benefit of getting the stadium lights. As a senior, I know that this won't benefit me personally or any of the other seniors in the room. There's a lot of us. But we care and we want to see the change, so we showed up and we're here. But I just wanted to say thank you for your consideration from all of us students that are here tonight and those that were unable to make it.
Thank you for your comments. Thank you. Number 92, please. 92. 93. Oh,
Didn't hear you. Okay. First of all, I'd like to express my appreciation for the traffic mitigation measures during the football games. I live on North Carmel Hills Drive, and I was able to move freely without any worry whatsoever. So instead of starting off with a negative. I really appreciate that. That was very helpful. A few comments, though, on the comment section of the draft EIR. Before doing that, I just want to mention that this issue has been framed in a way that really decreases thinking about possible alternatives. This is not about Friday night lights. I keep on hearing that. What it really is about adequate lighting for practices and some games. Okay, and if you think of it in those terms, there is a range of other possible alternatives other than 480-foot lights. One of the things that I mentioned in my comment to the EIR is that there are close to the ground sports like field hockey, lacrosse, to a large extent soccer. The demands for lighting of those sports is significantly different from football, for the simple reason is that, except in soccer and rare occurrences, the ball does not really travel all that high, requiring that significantly higher lights. Namely punts, for example, and field goals and kickoffs, things of that kind. The EIR, when looking at alternatives, simply dismissed those types of considerations as being inapplicable. In fact, the alternatives are really examples of either-or thinking and a combination of straw man alternatives. The EIR says that all reasonable range of alternatives would be considered. It simply doesn't do that by dismissing out of hand a range of alternatives like the one that I just mentioned that had been provided. A couple other quick comments. One is that that there are numerous unsupported claims made in the response to the alternatives. And finally, why don't you spend the money on subsidizing housing so faculty can live in the district rather than having to travel outside of the district? That would, I think, be a far better use of the funds.
Thank you for your comments. Number 93, please.
All right. Thank you. Thank you to the board for having everyone here tonight. As you can tell, I'm a light advocate. I live 6 houses from the football field, 6 houses down the street from the football field, and I love it. I love the games. I love to go up there and watch basketball. I love all the sports, and I think, to me, I'm selfish because I want the lights, because I want to go see all that stuff. I want to go there at night. I want to be part of it, and I'm selfish, and I'm not going to give you a bunch of environmental reasons why it should or shouldn't work, because I don't give a shit. But no, I do. I do care about the environment just as much as everybody else, but I'm doing it for selfish reasons, and I think, unfortunately, the people opposing this are doing it for selfish reasons as well. They might label it as environmental and the birds and the, lights, but, it's for all these kids to be able to participate in their programs, for the parents and faculty to get to participate and enjoy it. And if someone doesn't like it and they don't want it, they should just say it's because they don't want it because it's going to affect them, not everything else around us. Just say it. I don't want it because I live too close to the lights. But, I do want it, and I live really close to the lights, probably closer than anybody does. And I just feel like we should have the opportunity for our children and our future to be able to, for them to thrive. And they're our next generation. And, I think everybody's already said this before, but, when you move next to a school, what do you think's going to happen? I mean, it's a lot of kids and it's a lot of activities and it's a lot of participation. I live right down the street. It doesn't affect my parking. It doesn't affect my dinner. It doesn't affect my walking the dog. It doesn't affect anything for me. In fact, it only makes it better. So I'm a total in favor of the lights. And who else is? All right. I think enough said. Thanks.
Thank you for your comments. Number 94, please. 94. 95.
Hi, my name is Dara Blanton. I live just south of the high school. And my concern is all of the things that are piggybacked onto the initial proposal of the lights that just came out of nowhere. And tearing down the tennis courts, I really, you're going to pave paradise and put up a parking lot. There are plenty of parking spaces down by the baseball field. I live right above the baseball field. And granted, in the springtime, you do need more parking, but I would rather have them park in front of my house. I've been there for 40 years, and they used to park down the street. It really wasn't that big of a problem. Most of the kids were very courteous. But I'm really concerned about spending $5 million for amenities, and that's basically what this is. I'd rather spend the money on things that are in the beliefs and the mission statement that you guys have, and I don't want to be an enemy of any of these kids. My kids went there, but it's really beautiful watching a football game on Saturday afternoon when you see the Santa Lucias. That's got to be one of the most beautiful places to watch a football game in the United States. So I think I think it's, and another thing that I really need an explanation of, it's very, very dangerous coming out of Morris Drive, and I don't understand how the traffic with another parking lot and the parking lot of the baseball field, I don't understand how that is going to be handled. I really would appreciate you explaining that to me. And turning left is just ridiculous. And is all the parking from the tennis courts going to go up to the light? I don't, can anybody answer that? And the area south of the tennis courts going down to the baseball field, that's just chipping away. It's Carmel stone. I don't know how you're going to put a parking lot there because it's not a secure hill. And I really appreciate the students, and I've been a really fine neighbor for about 38 years. The last 2 years have been a little bit rocky with the baseball training facility that they snuck in there. But thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Number 96, please.
Good evening, Carmel Unified School District Board members. I address all of you on the CUSD board, those involved in making this decision on the lights, you parents of children, either in school in the past, present, or future, you businessmen and women, you that have either been raised here or moved here to start a family or join your family, you spouses that have worked very hard to support and raise your family at any cost, you property owners or renters, you equally invested in this community, you that have roots here. This is all the same for me and for my family. I was raised here. I am a parent of 2 CHS students, one a sophomore, one a senior, both scholars and athletes. I am very involved in the Padre Parents, which those of you that don't know is the PTO at CHS. I applaud you, each and every one of you board members, and especially you, Ted, for taking on this lights project that has turned into a battle with a small group that are opposed to the CHS football stadium lights and other much-needed upgrades to accommodate our 850 students. My family and I are in complete support of getting the lights. The lights are desperately needed for our many athletes, for their after-school practices, as well as the school league games, from late fall through the dark winter months. Specifically, sports like football, field hockey, soccer, and early lacrosse season. At CHS, over 60% of our students participate in athletic programs, more than ever before. The lights are also greatly needed for the 80-plus second and third year sports med students, each of them that need their 75 hours per semester outside of class at practices or games. As far as our wellness program, over 60% of our students visited the Wellness Center at least one time last school year. I mention the CHS Wellness Program because total student wellness should be a top priority for every parent everywhere. I am proud to say that CHS has made it a priority to support our students with a healthy mind and body. Our students' wellness, joy, and success matters. CHS promotes academics, performing arts, all student body involvement, wellness, and yes, athletics. We in this room are all aware that across the country, school shootings are up, that fentanyl overdoses are up, that teenage suicide is up, that social media is more a part of our younger generation's lives than ever before. It is not easy to be a teenager in today's world. This battle over whether CHS gets to have lights or not has to stop. Our students, every student, no matter where, deserves the whole high school experience, no matter what. Our amazing school does not deserve to be held back by a small group of unreasonable neighbors. I am hopeful that after tonight, once everyone has had an opportunity to speak, to be heard, that we can all come together and do what's right and best for these kids and give their school, Carmel High School, the lights they so desperately need.
Thank you for your comments. Number 97, please. Absolutely. I don't know. Before you go ahead and get started, I would just like to note for the record that we have received another document which has been distributed to the Board of Education titled "Some Thoughts Establishing Absurdity of the Chicken Little Group."
May I start?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. The future of Carmel by the Sea and all of us depends on the young people who are here today, not the old geezers like me. I'm going to be 88 in a couple of months, and all we think about is how to pass on our estate, and we don't want it dwindled. And I think that's what's affecting some of the older folks who are here. Let's focus on what is true and getting our school system so that it is going to be even better than it is right now. A few facts that occurred to me when I was analyzing the situation is that if we have most of this emphasis on football games. We have 5 football games a year. That's 5 365ths of the days. That equals 1/75th of the time during a year. But there are only 3 hours are devoted to the game with lights. That means that there is 3 hours a day of those 5 days, and 5 times 3 is 15 hours a year with those lights on. Now, how in the hell can you object to that? Friday night, there are 426 vehicle movements north from Ocean Avenue. Saturday, between 4:30 and 4, there are 1,387 movements, and the traffic is backed up all the way to Ocean Avenue and stops half the time. The group opposing the lights is trying to maintain that there are safety problems by keeping the football fans leaving, and as the gentleman said, they all leave at one time. They want them to leave during 4 and 4:30 when their traffic is so congested, rather than when it is totally safe at night and traffic movements could move on to the highway uncongested and unimpeded. Light. God gave us light. We love light. I want to read this. Electric lights changed the entire world economy. Things could be done at night. That was a new development. One of them is football. Playing football at night enables students, teachers, and families to have the complete weekend, free to catch up on home and family matters, rest or recuperate, visit a relative or friend over the weekend, or hold a part-time job, even catch up on the studies. A full weekend. Oh, I love Saturday football. I love to look out. But Friday night football is so much healthier. It provides so many more opportunities in that full weekend. Oh my goodness, I'm done. Okay.
Thank you.
If I may point out, twilight extends to after 10 p.m. during part of the year, and moonlight is over 80%, and you can read the paper by it. Can't even see the doggone lights.
Thank you so much for your comments. Thank you. Number 98, please.
You, sir, are a hard act to follow. Hi, everybody. My name is Meredith Knoll. I happen to be a 43-year lighting professional working in industrial commercial lighting. Started out with Philips Lighting way back in the early 70s. My whole entire life, even till now, even though I'm going to be younger than this man, not by much though, and I love lighting. The issue with the lights for the football field is to have even light distribution on the field so that everyone can see they can see the ball, they can see the other players, etc. That's the purpose of the lights. So as one of the gentlemen said, to look for alternative options, and I did submit some suggestions, one being a dome, which will give even distribution of light over the field so everyone can see. And the other, there's a company, and I even forwarded that, that has lights strung across, going side to side, so you're 50 feet, they'd be like 70 feet, but all that was rejected. In 1993, there were 4 reports put out by Dr. George Brainerd and also Dr. Marianne Figueroa. Those are the 2 top PhD scientists working with lighting specifically. And their papers published, one, the International Society of Illumination, international, as well as all the national groups of lighting scientists that look at lighting as art and science. And there's no question in terms of the application. If you go 80 feet in the air with MUSCO, which is the sole source you're looking at, you're absolutely going to get what they call batwing distribution of illumination. LED, hopefully you're gonna, when you do put them up, because I believe you will, that you don't use 4,000 Kelvin or 5,000 Kelvin, the 5,000 Kelvin, which is on the blue side. Why? Because light at night, spillover light pollution has been proven since 1993 and beyond to be a health risk for people relative to blood pressure, diabetes, et cetera, et cetera. There's papers, I sent them all to you, I sent you a whole bunch of reports. So we love the kids. We love the kids. No question about that. There's not a question about wanting the kids to be happy. The only question that exists that people are discussing is when you go 80 feet in the air, there's no way you're not going to throw light on the homes that are in the surround area. The suggestion to move it to the middle school seems like a really good one to many people. But it's the health of the environment, the health of humans, that's the real concern. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comments. Number 99, please.
Hi, I'm Aubrey Ania, and I'm a 9th grade athlete at Carmel High School. Sadly, Carmel students are being affected by these views of surrounding houses. The hazardous impact of the stadium lights are entirely incorrect. Stadium lights are a benefit to Carmel High School campus in multiple ways, including safety. I play soccer, and I love to support our other teams, and I would love to be able to do that on Fridays. And I don't know about other people, but me and actually I believe a lot of people are busy over the weekends, and that might affect them going to support their teams or getting to play on the team. I'm playing soccer this year for the JV team, and our practice is down at the middle school, and since I'm a freshman, I can't drive. So I struggle with getting rides down here, and if we had lights, then we would be able to practice later, and that wouldn't cause a problem getting down here. I think that if we got lights, that it would be a great part with our community. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Double zero or number 1, 00.
Hi, my name's Noelle, and indeed, I do care about Carmel as a whole, not only because I live right next to Carmel High School, but I've been here for 60 years. I've been to all 3 meetings. I feel like it's deja vu. I feel like my words fall on deaf ears. I feel that the staff is using the students as pawns to push ahead with the lights and the games. I'm sure I don't see any compromise with you guys, none. I know that you guys are getting $500 per practice when you rent it out to other teams. You're going to be renting it out. This is an exploitation of business. It has nothing to do with the school, and it has nothing to do with the poor kids. It destroys the neighborhoods. You're saying you're going to have 400 games a year. There's going to be light pollution. There's going to be noise pollution. And 80-foot lights are ridiculous. It's just going to destroy all of the neighborhood. And you guys are motivated by money, bottom line. And I keep saying the same old thing every time I come here, and it falls on deaf ears. And I hope to God that people are suing you at the state level, and that you're blocked for years for doing this. I'm really fed up.
Thank you for your comments. Thank you. Number 1, please.
Madam Chairman, members of the board, first of all, I have to comment that I'm a environmental land use attorney, and I attend a lot of public meetings, and this is the first meeting that I've ever been to where the chairman did not admonish that there would be no audience participation. And consequently, I think it's really unseemly to the way that you're conducting this meeting. But aside from that, as an environmental attorney, it has been my practice to ensure that developers do not externalize the cost of their development. It has to be, everybody has a right to use their property as they wish, so long as they don't interfere with their neighbor's property rights. This is a development. This is an intensification of use of this property. You are supposed to do that based upon full knowledge of the consequences. To that end, an environmental impact report has been prepared. It is totally insufficient. It has been insufficient from day one. It was so bad the first time around that you started from scratch the second time, and that's not much better. The issue here is, and I'm appalled the way the community has been divided. And one of the speakers talked about alternatives, and you have not examined alternatives at all. There was never an RFP to lighting people to suggest what could be done. How could we accommodate both interests, the students, and I have to wonder how bad it's been for those students without lights. I asked my daughter, who went to Carmel High, how bad was it? And she said, well, you don't know what you don't have. What they have, they seem to be doing pretty well, and without this intensification that you are proposing. So I would ask you, there's an old saying, wisdom so often never arrives at all, that you should not reject it because it arrives late. I urge you to consider other alternatives than just putting up 80-foot lights. Caltrans is able to safely do construction on highways at night with lights that are not 80-foot tall. Why couldn't you try and use those lights as an experiment and gather more data before you make this decision so that people can see or experiment to see what the impacts are? Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments. Number 2, please.
Hi, my name's Tierney Teese, and I have, we've lived here for 25 years. I have a daughter who's a senior and an athlete, and a 8th grader who will be a freshman. And I just want to thank the school board. I know this has been an unpleasant process for you. I know that you are not motivated by money because you don't really make much money as school board members, and I know that you donate to scholarships. So I thank you for your public service in what's become an uncomfortable happening. I do want to say that I think our most precious natural resource is our kids and their health and their athleticism, and having a strong body and mind is of utmost importance, especially when we see suicide rates as what they are right now. You have to have a strong body and mind to become a whole human, and that is critical. I think what has been forgotten here is the late start, so that our kids can get more sleep, which is also many studies shown how important sleep is. With a late start, you have a later ending of school, which requires the need of lights during the winter months. It's just part of that process. So, and it's a California mandate to have these late starts. So I think with the health of our kids in mind, if we look at the whole picture, it's just during the winter months when our days are shorter, it's really not a huge amount of light that's being added to this equation. But the opportunities it provides for our students to have whole body and mind development is critical. The school is going to be here a lot longer than any of us are, and this is our future. We want to give our kids the absolute best they can have in life. And I think the way we do that is by providing them the opportunity to have their sports at night and have these lights, which are not going to be on all the time, and the place is not going to be rented out to outsiders. That's been said time and time again. So please stop bringing that up. So thank you for your time. Thank you for responding to the community problems with the EIR and making amendments to traffic and making the amendments that you have. And good luck in the rest of this process. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for your comments. Number 3, please.
Hello, everyone. At a school, an institution of higher learning, it had been my hope that we would demonstrate as adults, board members, and a school district at large, civil discourse. That was a learning opportunity for all of your students and our community. Instead, from the leadership of Carmel Unified School District on, there has been pitting one against another. I am not a local adjacent to campus neighbor. I am a parent of a 2020 grad. I am very familiar and was quite involved while my student was here from preschool through graduation and beyond. I am a taxpayer, property taxpayer of 3 properties within this district. I care. I care about the students. I care about wellness. I care about you as the board members considering the entire holistic picture and not digging heels in on one point of view or another and staying fixed and permanent in your position. Fluidity and open communication is what my daughter learned here at this institution, and I encourage as a parent, and I wish I had seen this during this process. With 1 minute and 20 seconds left, I will simply say, I do care about the students. I am not a supporter of your current proposal on lights. A fixed, permanent, expensive, one-off on lights for not only football, but multiple sports does not allow any options, any learning. Why can't we wheel lights out temporarily as we discover what height really works, as we live and practice and see? I grew up on the East Coast. We got dark, we got colder than we get here. I was a cheerleader for 2 or 3 sports. We never had lights. We had a ton of school spirit, et cetera, et cetera. If Carmel High doesn't have school spirit without Friday night lights, we need to look at other things. In conclusion, what are our priorities? What are we teaching? What facilities are we building and investing in? And are we looking at wellness? Mind, body, we all know that. Late start schedules, where are they? So we can all have all the information we need, which we do not currently have, to make the best decision possible for the community, to educate about sustainability, environmental safety, and egress and ingress in a safe manner with the students first. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Number 4.
Hi, my name is Peyton Kelly. I am a senior at Carmel High School. I'm a longtime resident of Carmel, lived in Carmel by the Sea for all 17 and a half years of my life, just recently moved to the Views. This is my home. This is my community. This is all I've ever known. My parents went to Carmel High. My grandma was a principal at Carmel High. So this is my life. This is a lot of our lives. I'm appreciative of all of you here today, all the effort you've put into this. I know this has been a long process. I'm really appreciative of that, so thank you. But I'm here to talk about community. A year ago, we had a homecoming parade, and we wanted to make it more involving. We want to ingrain with our community, and our ASB teacher, Ms. Powers, she rocks. She said that Carmel High is like an island, and we all agreed. Carmel High is the high school on the hill. It's just there, to be honest, and I think we all know that in our heads, that these lights are so much more than Friday night football. We all know that. It's about wellness. It's about late start. Like, come on, I need some sleep. We all do. We're in high school. High school's hard. I just came from soccer practice. It's dark out there. We need lights. We need safety. It's about so much more than it's like everything on the surface. It's about being more than just that high school on the hill. It's about people coming to the games. And as a student, Carmel High School spirit is down. I don't know what it's like when you were there. I don't know what your high school experience was like. I don't know what high school's spirit is like in the area. But to be honest, Carmel High spirit is down. When I was a freshman, I would say it's close to 50% more than I am now. And I know we've had a rough go of it. I know COVID was a big hit. But this bringing of community is going to do so much more than we all even realize. The joy that I know this project is huge, but the joy and the differences in so many lives that this project can make is it's incredible. It makes me emotional to think, because I'm never going to see these lights, but I am here. We're fighting for this. I was here a year ago. I run Padre Bob. I try to give a voice to the students, and we try. We put effort in, and we try. So this is us trying, and this is us trying for something more than it is right now, and I know it can be something so much more. So this is for the high school on the hill that can be so much more. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Thank you. Number 5, please. Is there a number 5?
Good evening. My name is Ashley Stoddard, and I have a junior that goes to Carmel High. I am so happy that I am following this young lady because I moved here. I'm California native, but I moved back here 5 years ago. And when I moved here with my 2 high school boys, they were like, "Where in the heck have you moved us to?" The first homecoming parade, I own a business in town. We've had a business, my family has, for over 40 years here in Carmel. And I went to the homecoming parade, and a woman that works for me who's in her 80s came out. She was all excited. She was a cheerleader at Carmel High, and we locked up the gallery and went down to the parade, and there were literally 30 people there. Nobody was at the parade for these kids. Nobody showed up for them. Not nobody, because the parents were, and the kids were there. I was board chair for the Chamber of Commerce last year. I'm past chair. And I had reached out to Aubrey because my kids had expressed the same feeling that they are this high school that's on the hill. That Highway 1 might as well be a freaking 500-mile bridge between Carmel or any other community connection. Friday Night Lights is so much more than the lights. And I know that there are concerns, but as neighbors, this is an opportunity for you to get involved with these kids. They are our future. They are the ones that if all of this happens, all these bad, horrible things happen because of these lights, they're going to have to live with that consequence. They're going to have to figure it out. And there's an environmental club, there's art clubs, there's all these different clubs that you could probably get involved with somehow. And that would create more community. That would be really amazing. It's actually an opportunity to create more community. And, oh gosh, 54 seconds. Okay. I have so much to say, sorry. But anyways, my son plays 3 sports. he plays football, he plays soccer, and he plays lacrosse. And the transition right now from football into soccer is kind of wild. The big fear is that, you know, people might show up to these games. That's what I keep hearing. When I lived in Utah, on Friday night football games, the student section was huge because the kids could all attend. On Saturdays, they're pulled in a million different directions. And for football specifically, there's a natural progression of Friday night lights, Saturdays for college football, and Sunday is NFL. And so if you're a football fan, you need to understand that part. I care about the environment as well, but really, I love these kids. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Thank you. Number 6.
Hello, my name's Eva West. I'm a senior. I've been in our school sports medicine program for 3 years, and to me, the lights really isn't an option anymore. With the later start times, we're pushing back the practices, and what that does is we're having to cut our practices short, and this actually puts the athletes at risk during the games. We see more injuries when we have these shorter practice times, and when we have less hours of the day to practice, then we see more injuries in the games. So having lights and having that as an opportunity for these athletes to have their practices go in the wintertime, like that's gonna make all of the difference. And a lot of people are concerned about safety, and like I see the other side of this, that these lights would actually provide safety for these students. And I think that's really an important aspect. And also with sports medicine, I go to other schools for Friday night lights to work for the football games. And I see the school spirit, and I see the homecoming games, and I see all of this love and passion. And I'm a senior, so I'm not gonna be able to see that at our school, but I really, really want that for the Carmel community. And I wanna see that for the other students. I wanna see that same school spirit. And like Payne was saying, like we're lacking that right now. And I want to see like Friday Night Lights would bring that together for all of the students. And that's something I think is really, really important. Thank you for your time. And I thank you for all listening to all of us.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Number 7. What's the last number?
Hello, everyone. My name is Maya. I'm a senior at Carmel High, and I could come up here and I could be exactly what they want to hear from the high schoolers, aggressive and rude and just anti, like whatever they're thinking. But instead, I want to say thank you. Thank you to everyone who has gotten us to fight, because this has taught us about community. To reiterate, I and many of my fellow friends and classmates have come here to improve the safety of current and future students voluntarily. I spent enough of my time reading the entire environmental impact report, all 300-ish pages of it. In the 4 years that I've been here, I've never felt more involved and a part of something than when all of us came together for this project. And that's hard to beat. I've been involved in kind of everything at Carmel High. I've been involved in sports, leadership, sports med. I've even worked personally with Dr. Knight. And being able to feel more connected to the school than I already am is really tough to do. Stadium lights, as Maddie, Miss Moreau, and so many others have said, it's not simply about football. It's about becoming something more, a united community. So thank you for your push against this project, because I will never forget this experience, and win or lose, we as a community, as classmates, as teachers, as athletes, artists, parents, and families have become closer than ever. So thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Is there a number 8?
Hi, Randall Frederick. We moved here 4 years ago for the school district. I'm 100% for the lights because of the late start program. I have a 14 and 16-year-old. I do want everyone, though, to remember that these people that are unhappy with it, they're our neighbors, they're their dads, moms, grandparents, and so we want to listen to them. And I just would like people to, you know, watch the tone. I mean, they're just here expressing themselves, and I just want to support them. They pay their property taxes. This is why I moved here, because we have a good school district. So, but I'd like to remind them that probably the closer they live to the school, the higher their property value is. So, we just need to try to tone it down and just, I think it's too bad that the high school is right on Highway 1, but it is what it is. This light program, it's not going to be perfect, but we need to just keep moving forward and do the best we can to make it, work. But I do believe that we need to keep doing it. So thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Number 9, please. Number 10. If there's anybody here that hasn't previously addressed the Board of Education and you'd like to participate in public comment, I'll make one last call for public comment at this time. Is there anybody else that'd like to participate in public comment? All right, I see none at this time, so we will end the public comment portion of this meeting. I would like to thank everybody who took the time to speak with us this evening. I would also like to thank you all for being respectful and for adhering to the 3-minute time clock. I know it's difficult because there are a lot of thoughts and a lot of sentiments that we all want to get out. So I appreciate you all for participating with us this evening. We'll move along to the second agenda item. This is our only agenda item this evening. This is our action, discussion, and information item. This is resolution number 22-19. This is the adoption and certification of Carmel High School Stadium Improvements Final Environmental Impact Report, adoption of environmental facts and findings for the project under CEQA, adoption of the Statement of Overriding Considerations, adoption of mitigation monitoring and reporting program, and approval of project. So with that, and this is agenda item 2A, I'll pass it over to Dr. Knight.
I'd like to invite our Chief Operations Officer, Dan Paul, to the podium. He's going to be joined by our consultants from EMC, our legal counsel from DWK, and myself here shortly.
All right, I'll be giving a presentation on the, all right. It's not advancing. Okay. So I'll cover items 1 and 2, the background on the CEQA process and project objectives and description. Terry Whistler-Adam with EMC Planning Group will cover item 3, the EIR, and Jessica Johnson with DWK will cover what the board is considering tonight. If you can move forward to the next slide. I'll give a background on CEQA process that'll cover some of the timeline that we've gone over in the past year and a half. On May 13, 2021, we issued a notice of preparation for public comment with an initial study. On May 26th of 2021, we held a scoping meeting at the board meeting to solicit public comment. On May 14th, 2021, the close of the 30-day public comment period ended for the notice of preparation. On August 13, 2021, we issued the draft environmental impact report for public comment, and on September 8, 2021, the public hearing on the draft EIR was at a board meeting. On September 27, 2021, we had the close of the 45-day public comment period for the draft EIR. Outside of the CEQA process, we held additional meetings. On October 5th and December 8th of 2021, we had neighborhood community meetings at the Carmel High School Theater. The superintendent also distributed public status updates in January on the 26th, February 16th, June 10th, and July 22nd of 2022. On August 25th of 2022, the revised draft EIR was issued for public comment, and a public hearing was held on the September 6, 2022 board meeting. The public comment period ended on October 10th, 2022. The final EIR was made available on November 18th, which brings us to tonight, which is the board meeting on November 29th. I'll go over some project objectives and a description. If you've read the EIR, you probably are pretty familiar with these, but I'll cover them again. Objective 1 is enhanced learning environment for both PE and after-school sports activities that meets the contemporary standards of education and improves the district's athletic program for its CHS students and other students in the district. Objective 2, provide athletic facilities that facilitate implementation of the state's late start law without disruption to the district's existing educational and athletic programs. Objective 3 is provide the capability to host sport events and games for CHS students in the evening when students, parents, and community members can more easily attend. Objective 4 is improve athlete and spectator safety during evening sports events and games. Objective 5 is operate an athletic stadium facility that is at least equal with most other local high schools, including the ability to conduct events in the evening. Objective 6 is improve on-campus traffic circulation, fire and emergency vehicle access, campus security and safety, ADA access, and student, staff, and visitor access within the CHS campus grounds. Objective 7 is improve and expand on on-campus parking facilities to meet need at CHS. Objective 8 is implement green building practices that foster energy conservation and replace outmoded athletic lighting fixtures with new fixtures that will obtain dark sky certification. Objective 9 is enhance the spectator experience during sporting events by adding an alternative viewing location different from the existing bleachers. Objective 10 is augment the secure storage space available to the district's athletic programs. Objective 11 is create a new healthy weekend social opportunity for district students while building school spirit. Objective 12, reduce operational difficulties and complex coordination issues with respect to the scheduling of practices and games for district athletic programs. Objective 13 is achieve these objectives consistent with the intent of the Facilities Master Plan presented to the board on 6/26/2019, and Objective 14 is achieve these objectives within the district's allocated budget allowances. The project summary is stadium field lights, a new storage building with standing viewing platform adjacent to home bleachers, replacing the existing light fixtures at the swimming pool, and a new internal connector roadway and driveway and lighted pedestrian paths. A new parking area with 35 spaces east of the existing swimming pool, and a new parking lot with 76 spaces replacing the existing tennis courts, which includes a new 18-foot drive aisle connecting the existing main campus parking lot and a new pedestrian walkway. The 4 light poles at the stadium will include 2 70-foot poles behind the home seating on the north side and 2 80-foot poles behind visitor seating on the south side. The design has been approved for dark sky certification. This is a site map showing the stadium. The upper portion is the north side, which has a 70-foot poles. The lower portion is the south side by the visitor seating with 80-foot poles. The storage building will be a 20-foot by 120-foot building east of the home bleachers and a standing platform for up to 100 spectators. This is a rendition of an early design concept that was brought to the district with an earlier project. East of the pool facility, the new parking area east of the pool facility will replace existing storage buildings and storage containers and will be accessed via Ocean Avenue and the campus ring road. It will be for staff and visitor overflow parking during the day and for staff and participants during sporting events. This is a design concept for the parking east of the pool. The new parking lot at the tennis courts will have 76 spaces and will be accessed via an 18-foot drive aisle at Route 1 and a 20-foot driveway at Morse Drive. It will be used for students during the school day and for students and spectators during sporting events. And this is the design concept for the parking lot at the tennis courts. Replacement of the pool lights will be replacing the existing light fixtures at the pool facility with LED light fixtures. These fixtures have received design approval for dark sky certification as well. And that concludes my portion. Terry Whistler Adam will cover the EIR.
Thank you, Dan. Well, this slide is a little overview of the CEQA process again, but Dan already went over that in detail, so we'll move on. The focus of my presentation will be about the environmental impacts and mitigation measures that were identified in the EIR. There are basically two levels of impact that we look at in an EIR, and that's beneficial and adverse impacts. However, CEQA does require that the focus of the EIR is on the adverse impacts. In the adverse impact category, there are three levels of adverse impacts that are identified in our analysis. The first is less than significant, meaning that there's an adverse impact, but it doesn't rise to a threshold of significance. And the second is actually a significant impact, but less than significant with mitigation measures applied. And the final and most severe impact is significant and unavoidable, meaning that even with the implementation of mitigation measures, if the project is approved and implemented, the environmental impact is unavoidable. So I'm just going to go through the impacts and mitigation measures in each of the categories. The EIR did identify one beneficial impact, and that is because of the additional parking on campus, there would be reduced or eliminated traffic-related noise in the adjacent neighborhoods from people parking on the streets. And then the majority of the impacts fell into the less than significant impact category. Again, they are adverse impacts, but they didn't rise to a level of significance. And those are the daytime effects on scenic vistas and the visual character and quality of the project site. Air quality impacts during both construction and operation. Lighting and noise on sensitive wildlife. More or less than significant impacts. The interference with movement of wildlife species or with established wildlife corridors. Energy from lighting and traffic from both construction and operations. Greenhouse gas emissions, again from both construction and operations. Traffic noise levels on campus from increased attendance at some of the events. And then nighttime stadium events and activities associated with the 2 new parking areas and traffic control measures would cause occasional noise increases. Again, more or less than significant impacts. Ground-borne vibrations during construction activities. Vehicle miles traveled would increase. It's also considered an increase in traffic associated with some events. Soil erosion during construction. Surface water and groundwater quality also during construction. And then accelerated deterioration of the Carmel Middle School tennis courts and accelerated deterioration of other public tennis courts in the vicinity. And then this is the next category. These are the impacts that were determined to be significant, but with applied mitigation, they would fall below the threshold of significance and become less than significant. So the first one is potential impacts to roosting special status bat species. And the mitigation is pretty standard in the industry that pre-construction surveys are conducted prior to construction activities to determine whether there are any bats roosting in the immediate vicinity. Similar impact regarding nesting raptors and migratory birds. Again, the mitigation is conducting pre-construction surveys. Potential tree removal, although the project doesn't propose to remove any trees, if for some reason some of the improvements did cause damage to a tree, that replacement would be required as recommended by a certified arborist. Construction noise, and the mitigation is that equipment be adequately maintained and muffled and the hours of construction limited. Parking capacity and potential emergency access was identified as an impact, and a traffic mitigation plan was prepared and will need to be finalized and adopted. and that would mitigate the impacts associated with that for certain high capacity events. And then anywhere in California, you have the potential to impact unknown, buried, historic, and/or unique archaeological resources. And again, there's standard conditions that are in place to stop work if resources are accidentally found. And then potential disturbance to Native American human remains is also considered an environmental impact. And again, that can happen pretty much anywhere in California. But again, the standard conditions are to stop work if human remains are found. And then the last category is the significant and unavoidable impact. Was identified as the nighttime lighting, glare, and sky glow. The mitigation measures, there are several included in the EIR and in your package tonight, and they include adopting a policy limiting the use of the field after dark, adopting a policy restricting stadium and pool use by non-school related groups after dark, consulting with a specialist to reduce other lighting on campus and implement those recommendations in an effort to reduce the existing lighting on campus, and then the dark sky certification for both the pool and the stadium lights. The final EIR, we received 435 comment letters and/or emails, and 27 verbal comments were received during the the September 6th board meeting. The final EIR included responding to those comments and changes to the revised draft EIR. So some of the changes were just clarifications and minor corrections. Others actually included adding to mitigation measures to improve the mitigation measures. We did receive some late written comments as of the publishing of the agenda. There were about 6. And since that time, approximately 6 more have been received. Staff and consultants have reviewed all of the late comments, and no new issues were raised that weren't raised in the comment letters that were received during the public review period. No new feasible alternatives or mitigation measures were presented. Letters of support were also received. Many comments were not on environmental issues, and all of those have been submitted to the board by staff. One other item, an email came in from one of the commenters that the comment letter in the EIR, in the final EIR, didn't adequately present the pictures that had been presented, and that was an issue when converting email to PDF. So that was also submitted to you this evening for the record, so you can see those the pictures in full. And I'm going to turn it over to Jessica Johnson with DWK, who will go through what you're going to be considering this evening.
All right, so here's an overview. I'm going to walk you through the resolution that you're considering tonight and the decision that you're going to consider taking. So just as a big picture overview, you'll be considering adoption and certification of the final environmental impact report, which also includes the revised draft EIR. You'll be considering the MMRP, which is the Mitigation Monitoring and Reporting Program, which is the enforcement mechanism for those mitigation measures to ensure that they're legally enforceable. We'll be talking about the facts, findings, and statement of overriding considerations. And then, of course, if the the final impact report is adopted and certified, then consideration of approval of the project. So in order to adopt the final environmental impact report, you need to certify the report and make certain findings. And those findings are that the document complies with the requirements of the California Environmental Quality Act, that the document was presented to you and you reviewed it, and considered all the information that was presented to you before the board, not just in the document, but also other information in the record. And finally, that the document reflects the board's independent judgment and analysis. Moving on to the MMRP, which is, again, the document that makes the mitigation measures legally enforceable. Because you have mitigation measures, you have to have an MMRP. And they need to be legally binding. So the purpose of it is to make sure that the significant impacts or the potentially significant impacts that Terry discussed are substantially lessened. And as Terry also discussed, the majority of the impacts are lessened to a level of less than significant, except for the significant and unavoidable impact, which we will get to in a minute. There is one important point here, and the MMRP, which is this document, attached to your resolution, did not include under mitigation measure 5.2a, there was additional mitigation added that was suggested in the comments on the revised draft EAR and was incorporated into the mitigation measures. It's included in your findings and it's included in the EAR document, but there was a typo in the MMRP. So when you consider adopting the MMRP, you may want to consider a motion to adopt the revised version. All right, the next document, which is an attachment to the resolution, is this big packet, which is the facts, findings, and statement of overriding considerations. The facts and findings are, in big picture, findings the board is making on the impacts, findings that the board is making on the mitigation measures, namely that the mitigation measures are in fact mitigating the impacts that they claim they are mitigating, and also to the extent with the significant and unavoidable impact in mitigating that impact to the extent possible. It makes findings on the alternatives that were considered and rejected as infeasible. And it also makes findings on the benefits and objectives of the project. Dan walked through what those objectives were earlier in the presentation, and we'll get to the benefits at the presentation. Finally, the document includes the record of proceedings. So that's all the documents, a summary of all the documents that are part of the record. If the board adopts and certifies the final environmental impact report, which is required in order for you to approve the project, then you can consider approval of the project. But you need to consider the statement of overriding considerations, which is balancing the benefits and the project objectives and making a determination that the benefits outweigh the environmental impacts. It's important to note that there are no additional feasible mitigation measures or mitigation measures that were proposed that would be considerably different than what was already considered in the EIR. The mitigation measures that were feasible, that were suggested in public comment period, that were feasible, were incorporated into the EIR. In terms of the project benefits, these are the overview of what those are, and the objectives fit into each of these benefits. So it meets the intent of the 2019 FMP. It also addresses two of the goals that the board, the priorities that the board had come up with in 2019 in terms of project priorities, and that includes the fixing the parking situation, and stadium lights. It improves safety for students, staff, and visitors. It provides enhanced learning environments and improved programs. It increases student, alumni, and community engagement. It improves logistics and maintains sport programs. There's economic considerations and policy and program consideration benefits. And in sum, it provides logistical, legal, environmental, health, economic, academic, and social benefits. Ted?
Good evening, board, community members, staff, and especially our students here tonight. For the past 15 months, I've assumed positive intent, engaged in dialogue and listen to understand. I want to acknowledge that many in our community have engaged in good faith discourse, and a majority of our community have provided helpful suggestions that have been incorporated into the EIR as mitigation factors. However, during this time, there have been a small but vocal minority of homeowners who have attempted to derail this project and demonize those involved. Over the last year, I have heard exaggerations, misrepresentations, and flat-out lies. I have listened to and read personal attacks on our board, our staff, students, and myself. Some tonight spoke on respect and decorum. It wasn't long ago I sat in this very gym and watched a community member wave her finger at our students and pretend to play the violin while they poured their hearts out to this board. I think our students are doing a pretty good job given the models that they've had from some in our community. I myself have been threatened, bullied, and bombarded with tactics meant to stall and halt this process. Most of these tactics were shown to us in the name of transparency and environmental stewardship. Throughout this process, I have admired the strength of our board, our staff, our students, and those supportive community members as they patiently listened, adhered to the required processes, and attempted to bridge a divide that some homeowners were never going to be willing to budge on. Which brings us to tonight. After over a year of being on the receiving end, we finally get a chance to present the final outcome of the CEQA process to our public, to demonstrate to our students the courage to do the right thing and to set the record straight once and for all. I want to start by thanking several people for their work in getting us to this point. I want to thank EMC for their work in this process, especially Terry and Stewart. EMC was chosen after a thorough RFP process from a number of other firms to assist the district with CEQA compliance, including creation of the environmental impact report for the stadium improvement project. EMC has brought their expertise, dedication, and professionalism to this process, and they've exceeded our expectations every step of the way. As a company that has served our community for over 40 years, we are confident in the work that you see here tonight. I also want to thank our law firm, DWK, especially Jessica Johnson and Reed Shannon, for their support and guidance, ensuring that we are legally compliant with all aspects of the CEQA process. I want to thank our Chief Operations Officer, Dan Paul, for his tireless work on this project. Dan has taken the lead and has gone above and beyond in making sure that every aspect of this project has been thoughtfully planned. I know he stands ready to execute on that plan following tonight's process. I also want to thank our Chief Communications Officer, Jessica Hall, for her work in collecting and responding to public comments and public record requests pertaining to this project. There are several other staff members who have helped support this project in some fashion, and we would not be here tonight had they not stepped up and put in the extra time and effort for our students. I want to thank members of our community, including parents, neighbors, local media, consultants, contractors, and other educational partners who have engaged in this process in some way. I want to send a big thank you to our Board of Education. As I have said before, being a school board member is not easy, and these 5 individuals are here for the right reason, to ensure that we have the best school system possible for our students, our staff, and our community. They have not only spent hours engaging with this process, reading reports, meeting with community, talking with students and staff, they've been unfairly targeted by a small number of community members who have chosen to attack them personally for standing their ground and not caving to the minority of loud voices. I'm proud to be their superintendent and couldn't be prouder of them for their strength, dedication, and resolve during this process. Finally, I want to thank our students. Although some people may have forgotten why we are here or have chosen to put their wants above the needs of our children, the youth in our community have once again proven why we should elevate their voice and empower them to seek change. Our students have eloquently described why and how this project will benefit Carmel and its youth for years to come. They have advocated appropriately, respectfully, and modeled excellent behavior, often in the face of adults acting the opposite. They have inspired me reminded me why I chose this noble profession and forged my resolve to do the right things for their education and their future. So most of you are familiar with our Word on the Street webpage, where we take rumors that are out there in the community and share the truth with our constituents. In that same spirit, I want to spend some time shedding light on many of the statements that have been made over the course of this project. As stated earlier, some are exaggerations, some misrepresentations, and some lies. However, this is my opportunity to share the truth with our board and our community. Some have stated that the stadium improvement project will cost the district $400 million. The truth is, the actual cost of the project is estimated to be $3.3 million. Some have stated that we expanded the stadium lights project to the stadium improvement project for reasons like personal gain or because the first draft was insufficient. The truth is, some in the community asked us to slow down, revise the EIR, and mitigate other concerns such as off-site parking and light pollution that was coming from the pool lights. Some have stated that the district has colluded with other agencies throughout this project. The truth is, some community members have gone out of their way and contacted multiple agencies who have limited involvement in and/or jurisdiction over this project in an attempt to intimidate and stall the project. Some have stated that we will be removing mature Monterey cypress and Monterey pines to complete this project. The truth is, there are no plans to cut down trees. In fact, we will be assessing the health of trees as stated in the EIR. Some have stated that we will be demolishing the beloved tennis courts that students play games on. The truth is, the current tennis courts at the high school are not in the required condition for competition, and students currently have to play their games off-site. Some have stated that we will be renting out the stadium for well over 400 evening uses a year. The truth is, as stated in the EIR, we are prepared to revise Board Policy and Administrative Regulation 1330 that will prohibit the rental by non-district users of not only the stadium, but the pool during times when light would be needed. Some have stated that deed restrictions prevent the district from installing lights. The truth is, there are no deed restrictions regarding stadium lights. Some have stated that Friday night football games will lead to shootings, criminal behavior, and nefarious activities from our students. The truth is, we currently have numerous nighttime events inside the high school, including a basketball game going on right now, and we rarely have any misbehavior from our students or our community, and there is no reason to believe that Carmel will see the violence that plagues other parts of our country because we install 4 light poles. Some have stated that this project will cause an increase in diabetes and related health concerns. The truth is, studies have not proven a direct link between diabetes and artificial light while sleeping, and the stadium lights will not be illuminated at times when a majority of the surrounding community will be asleep. Some have stated that the effects of the Stadium Lights project are synonymous with the civil rights struggles that have been waged against minority groups. The truth is, comparing stadium lights being installed next to your house with people being systematically marginalized, disenfranchised, and harmed is both ludicrous and offensive. Some have stated that the district has not been collaborative and has refused to meet with and work with community members to find common ground. The truth is, the district has exceeded the notification and public requirements of CEQA through special meetings, town halls, phone calls, visit to community members' homes, lunches, etc. When area homeowners began to lob threats of litigation towards the district and their attorneys began to contact us, we redirected our community outreach efforts, and instead of meeting with the select few who requested those private meetings, district staff instead focused our attention on issuing public status updates that were made available to the greater public as a whole and provided consistent information to everyone. Some have stated that it would be easy for the district to implement later secondary start times and not move end times later into the evening. The truth is, the district is governed by instructional minutes, and assuming that we have similar variables to other school districts who can implement late start and practice without lights is simply uninformed. Some have stated that the current project violates legislation, regulations, and local ordinances. The truth is, school districts are subject to specific laws and regulations, and school projects are subject to oversight by the Division of State Architects under applicable law. The district has worked closely with professional consultants to ensure that it meets the requirements set forth by CEQA, as well as the Education Code and Government Code. Some have stated that the current project is not compliant with emergency access requirements. The truth is, the district has worked closely with design consultants and local agencies to ensure that it meets or exceeds all regulations and ordinances. Some have stated that we are not notifying proper entities, including county and state agencies, throughout this project. The truth is, the district has complied with all notification requirements. And finally, some have stated that current board members violated the law when approving past projects. The truth is, past projects are outside of the scope of the current environmental process. Furthermore, our current board members were not in office when many of these projects were considered, and the board members who did vote on these prior projects appropriately complied with CEQA. I want to end my time tonight by not only encouraging our board to believe in our youth and adopt this resolution, but by explaining why I strongly believe that we are doing the right thing for our current and future students and for our greater community. I have said from the beginning that I was going to do what I thought was best for students in the most responsible way possible. You've heard comments tonight about values, legacy, and compromise. Let me be very clear. My values center on our students, and you don't compromise on your values. As for my legacy, if listening to students, valuing their opinions, and empowering their voice is my legacy, I can live with that. I believe that we have mitigated a majority of the concerns that I have heard throughout the process. We are mitigating concerns that our neighbors have had for years in regard to off-campus parking, the view of the back of the high school, Carmel High School pole lights, and traffic management. With regard to the stadium lights, I believe that the pros simply outweigh the cons, and we have done everything we can to mitigate impacts, including dark sky certification, shielding, and limiting use. With the need for adequate evening practice time, additional on-site parking, and for our children to have the same opportunities as students in other districts, I believe that this project is the best and only course of action. We have no reason not to trust and listen to our students, and no reason to be scared of progress. We're now prepared to answer questions that the board may have before you vote.
Thank you. Thank you to all the presenters in that presentation. That was helpful. What I'll go ahead do, and we'll start now, is I'll go around the table and have any questions that you have directed to Dr. Knight, and he can redirect them to whoever might be the best fit to answer them. If you want to hold your general statement or any comments until after questions, we'll move on to that after we finish the question piece of this. So I'll go ahead and I'll start with you, Jack. If you have any questions, please feel free.
I do not have any questions at the time. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Carl?
Nor do I.
Seabury?
I have a couple.
Sure.
First of all, I think it would be important to ask our representative from the student body, because I know that many of the students here came to voice their concerns and their opinions on the lights, but they don't represent the entire student body. So I think it would be important to hear from your perspective what the entire student body might be feeling about these lights.
Absolutely. Thank you. As you could see tonight, the student body overwhelmingly supports the lights program, and I have yet to speak to a single student who does not support lights. Sports play a central role in the high school experience of so many Carmel students, bringing opportunities to students and building community at CHS. As a three-sport athlete, all of high school, I can personally attest to the impact sports has had on my life. Sports has helped me meet new people, provided positive role models, and taught me important life lessons. Consider the fact that over half of our student population, 57%, participate in Carmel High athletics. And that participation is increasing, especially among the female population at CHS. Just look at the unprecedented amount of girls who tried out for soccer this year. But soccer, being a winter sport, means that soccer players must often be sent to the middle school and deal with practices being cut short because of unsafe conditions for players in the dark. Students absolutely want lights because lights will add to our high school experience, allowing night games and fun, exciting nighttime activities, an atmosphere at home games such as the shoe game. But even more than night games, whether or not to put in lights is a question of student safety. Practicing or playing in the dark is simply unsafe. Lights would remedy this unsafe scenario and ease sports scheduling in the process. Lights would allow students to participate in full games and practices, as well as then additional time for warm-ups and cooldowns, which would mitigate injuries. Approving the lights prioritizes Carmel High School students' health and safety, and I believe anything that can be done to ensure the well-being of Carmel High students should be supported. The student body cares. The students are invested in lights, as we've seen tonight. As I look into this audience, I see the faces of so many of my fellow Carmel High students, including many seniors who will never be able to participate in a late night game with lights as a high school student. However, they're still here because they support the future of Carmel. This is a project necessary for the future of Carmel High School, and as board members, it is your responsibility to listen to both the students and the community. But ultimately, each of you was elected to serve the needs of the students, and the students simply need lights. Thank you, Dr. Knight and school board members, for all the work you've done on this project. I know it has not been easy.
Thank you for your comments. Thank you. Go ahead, Seabury.
So I do have a number of questions, but I'll cut my questions down a little bit. In the EIR report, it calls out implementing green building practices. Is this going to only pertain to the green practices? Is this only going to pertain to lighting? And can you potentially consider other green practices as we move forward with the full project? In addition to that, and adding on to that, I know that we're going to be adding a new access road and a parking lot, and I was wondering if there's any consideration with permeable surfaces to allow better drainage instead of runoff.
I'm going to ask Dan if he can approach the podium and answer those questions.
Sure. The scope of the project is actually not that large compared to some of the projects we've done in the past. So the opportunities for green building practices are really the LED lights, and in the storage building, potential energy-saving LED lights. The permeable pavement will really depend on the soils and geotechnical reports we're doing for the parking areas and the drive lanes. Absent the permeable paving, stormwater regulations require that we do mitigation of the runoff that would filter it prior to depositing it in the storm drain system.
Just looking for my important questions. I just wanted, again, absolute clarification on exactly how many days or nights the lights will be on. I know that there were a number of tables and charts in the report that outline the number of practices and the number of games, but I know those were a total amount, not necessarily just when the lights would be used. And I was wondering if you could clarify the amount of, generally the amount of usage per day.
Yeah, it certainly, and I can ask Dan or Terry to answer that question, but it certainly varies by day, right? Depending on the time of year, they might only need to be on for an hour. For games, they might need to be on longer, but I'll ask Dan if he can address the specifics of the question.
Sure. We, when we developed the EIR, we knew how many games we were going to be, because it's based on how many games the league allows. Practices, what I did to develop that is I took a calendar for a year and I went with assumed practice start times, length of practice, and calculated what time the lights would be on and off every day. And it came up to about 152 days of the year, but there's variables in there. A good example is the pool lights. I know I'm getting into a long explanation, but I'm trying to give you all the information. If the water polo teams are playing away, the pool lights aren't programmed on. So it's hard to say exactly how many nights per year. I can say if we were home every day and every team was on the field, it would be 152. But I don't know until I see the athletic schedule. If you have all of the soccer teams away in December, the lights won't be programmed on. So that would be 151 days. There's some variables in there.
In terms of when the lights will be turned off, I know it was pretty clear in the report, football games versus other games versus practices. And so my question was, with other lighting on campus, I know that there are obviously the pool lights and there are exterior building lights and parking lot lights. Right now, what is our protocol for when those lights turned off? And will we be reducing that amount of time in addition to that? Or when are the lights turned off now?
Dan, you might as well just stay up there.
The area lighting at the high school is on until 11 p.m. We have staff that work every night until 11 p.m. and for their safety and security, the lights are on. They're custodial staff. They have to be able to see, to clean and prep the site for the next day.
And I think that's it for right now. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Anne Marie, did you have any questions?
No questions.
All right, Tess?
I just have a couple questions. So there seems to be some confusion around the whole DSA process, the Department of State Architects, and the recent exemption. Can you please speak to this?
Sure. The Division of State Architects has oversight for the design and construction of schools in California, period. They are the primary entity that approves the construction. They are involved from the design through the construction oversight and project closeout and certification of the project. They administer the building codes for schools. Schools have some of the most stringent building codes in the state. Counties and cities are not involved in the code for school construction at all.
And then that's true with every district across the state?
Every
for the most
district
part?
across the state, yes.
Okay, thank you. And then, Seabear, you asked one of my questions. My next question is, who holds the district accountable for following the CEQA process and all of the mitigation?
So it's the district, but it's going to depend on the mitigation measure and the MMRP. So for example, for a construction mitigation measure, such as if you come across archaeological remains, then there's certain processes that need to be followed according to that mitigation measure. That would be something that would be contractually, a contractual obligation on the contractor. So it would be inserted into the construction contract that gets put out to bid. With respect to, not allowing outside use of the stadium lights and pool lights, that would be implemented through a change to district board policy and administrative regulation. And once that adoption is made, that's binding on staff. And the community needs to comply with it as well. Any change to that policy would have to go through the CEQA process again, specific to that particular mitigation measure. So it really does vary. There's some that implementation would go on through the life of the project, such as the transportation management plan. There is part of the mitigation is that, if there's a community complaint or whatnot, that, district staff will review it on an annual basis and then report back to the board. But for example, the construction measures, once the project's complete, there's no more mitigation or monitoring or reporting required for those mitigation measures. So it really varies and it really depends. In the grand scheme of things, apart from the district and the board, there's community oversight as well. So hopefully that answers your question. It really varies depending on the mitigation measure.
Yeah, I think it's a great question. Some have said that we can just turn around if this is approved and undo everything that we've done. And the truth is, we are held legally accountable for the items in that CEQA process. We can't just decide next year, oh no, let's turn on those lights past 10 o'clock, or let's go ahead and rent out the stadium on, every weeknight. We are legally bound to what is approved through the CEQA process.
Sarah, I had one more question, if that's okay. Okay. I guess I just want again to hear the process of how EMC was selected. I know that there was a lot of concern about there was a biased nature in the report, that it wasn't professional, that there were lots of gaps and areas that were missing. And so I think it's just important to reiterate the process of how EMC, their experience, their history, some of the other projects that they've dealt with.
You bet. That's a great question. So a request for proposal was put out, and we had, I believe, around a half a dozen companies apply for that. EMC was chosen, and again, they're a company that has been in the area for, I believe, about 44 years. They have done projects similar to this all across the area. And as I said earlier, I believe they've done a great job. They've been there every step of the way. Every time we've needed to add something or slow down or come to them and say, the community would like us to mitigate this as well, they've gone back in, they've done all that work. So not only were they chosen in a way that's compliant with district policy and law, I believe they've gone over and above in meeting the demands of this process.
Great. Are there any last questions? No? All right. Would anybody else like to make a comment before I would go ahead and entertain a motion? You want to start with Jack? Oh, no more comments. Okay. Thank you, Carl.
Yeah, I'm going to make a few comments. I was going to talk about the misinformation campaign that has been a part of this that was pretty disturbing to me, but I think that's been covered pretty well by Dr. Knight, so I won't do that. But for you that don't know me in here, former principal at Carmel Middle School, former principal at Carmel High, and 11 years now on the school board. So, I've got a lot of history, and I've been through a lot of projects in this district. So, but that's not what kind of gets me a little bit. Some of the things that people say and some of the references to the students are very annoying to me. They really are. It indicates to me that you don't know anything about what's going on at that high school and what kind of kids we're dealing with. If there was a pawn involved in it anywhere, it would have been me when I was the principal, not them. Some of the best advice I ever got was from those kids at the high school. And all the things I've done, what do I miss the most? I love the staff. I hired a lot of them. It's the kids I miss. They're not pawns. These are the brightest young people that you could possibly find. And also, it's their high school. What do you expect them to do? You're talking about what they feel is the most appropriate thing to happen up there. And by the way, this is not the first time that I've heard about lights. I came to Carmel High in 2001, and guess what they were talking to me about? Lights. We couldn't do anything about it for a while because the field itself was in such a lousy condition. Dirt, big crown in the center of the field, concrete bleachers. Priorities weren't going to get to lights. And quite honestly, I was a traditionalist, went to Carmel High, and I didn't push. I didn't do it. But times have changed, folks. They really have. So I don't like this thing about pawns. They're not pawns. They know exactly what they're doing, and you've heard them tonight. I wish I was as eloquent as he is. And that's the problem sitting next to him at these board meetings, you know, I got to tell you. You know, one of the comments, too, that I've noticed is the inference that we don't let people that live, that, you know, people that don't live next to the high school should not weigh in on that. That's been inferred in quite a few of the publications. However, I'm going to guess that 80%, maybe as much as 90% of the taxpayers in this district don't live anywhere near that high school. Yet they're paying the same amount of taxes and, quite honestly, more than those living directly around the high schools. To exclude that part of the community simply because they don't live there in terms of a voice is something the board, I don't think, can do. The board has to listen to all of its constituents. The thing about football, I know it as well as anybody. You got 4 to 5 home games a year. 4 to 5 home games a year. And by the way, football is the program that supports all of the rest of those programs that are not well attended. That needs to be said. Unfortunately, soccer, lacrosse, field hockey, they don't have a big following with crowds, mostly just the parents of the kids. So there's so much overstatement about the use of that facility and it being bogged down by night use. You've only got one sport up there that can bring a crowd that is of concern, and that is football, and that is 4 games, assuming we can even get those 4 night games with the way officials are going. But anyway, I needed to say that. That's so overstated. You know, what did I hear as a principal at the high school more than anything else? Parking. Get those kids out of my neighborhood. That's what I heard, year after year after year. And I live on Hatton Road, 2 blocks away from the high school. And, well, the neighbors did what neighbors do. They got the county to post no parking. There's no parking there. There's no parking there. So we come up with a plan to put the students on the campus with parking, and it gets resistance. Now, there's an oxymoron for an old principal right there. We want those kids on that campus. We don't want them parking in the neighborhoods. And I think that what we presented is a way to do that and to mitigate that long-standing argument, which is amazing to me, that it could even be a concern that we are adding parking and on tennis courts that are not approved for league play, that are not level, that are outdated, et cetera, and so on, and coming up with a plan to relocate those down to the Carmel Middle School, which makes some sense. So, you know, for me, here's the deal. And we'll get to a vote, I'm sure, at some point. But in my opinion, this process has been as transparent as a process like this can be. It's not perfect. None of them really are. Has the school board been misled, do you think, by any of the information we've received or the presentations we've received? No way. Not at all. We are fully aware of the status of what we are doing and have been updated all along the way, asking questions and getting answers. There seems to be this feeling in the community that we don't know anything about what's happening and Ted is out there doing this all by himself. Well, that's not true. You know, in the bottom line, folks, the buck stops right here at the school board. Dan Paul can't approve this. John Lyons can't approve this project. Ted can't approve this project. Only we can. And you know what? When you become an elected official, you've got to be prepared to make some decisions, and they're not going to be popular at times. But let's make no, you know, let it be said that this is where the decision-making body is. So if you have a beef with it, it's right here. Okay? Having said that, I think it's time for CEQA to take a look at this thing. It would be good to get a third set of eyes, a neutral party, weighing in on all of the concerns that have been raised. And I must say, some in the community have done an outstanding and eloquent job of presenting data and information. Really, really professional and thorough and we get that. I get that. So, having said that, CEQA is the next step in the process.
Thank you for your comments, Carl. Seabury?
Dear community, I want to thank you for participating in this process. I truly believe it's critical that all voices are heard so the board can make an informed decision tonight. I assure you that I and my fellow board members are coming to this meeting tonight fully prepared. Yes, I read the whole 2019 pages. After investing many hours of time in reviewing the report, questioning the report, and reading all of the comments. If you are for or against the lights, please know that your comments are valid and they have been heard. The decision I must make tonight has weighed heavily on my heart. Being a multi-generational Carmel resident and having lived here myself for 20 years and being a homeowner, I understand that my decision will have long-lasting impacts regardless of how I vote. In addition, I have wrapped my identity around being a proud and passionate environmentalist for more than 35 years. These identities are a part of me, and it is hard and complicated to separate them. To make a thoughtful decision, I had to have confidence in my own personal values, the values I believe that put me in this position. I had to rely and trust the experts who are involved in this process from the beginning to the end. And as a school board member, I have to represent the interests of the students and the community. While there is no doubt that moving forward on this project will result in unavoidable impacts, I leaned heavily on my environmental knowledge and asked myself the question, will moving forward on this project compromise my own environmental values? The response I kept cycling back to is no, it will not. I've spent my entire professional life educating others on how to protect our environment, so I know that while there will be unavoidable light pollution, I do not believe that impacts to the natural resources are significant enough to challenge my values or harm the environment. I so appreciate the concern that so many in our community have voiced about the potential damage to this beautiful area. But instead, consider other decisions that can be made every day that will have a greater and longer lasting impact on our environment. As a board member, I look forward to introducing green practices as best practices for all decisions that we make. Lastly, much has been said about the preservation of Carmel culture. Will installing stadium lights change Carmel forever? Unfortunately, Carmel is already changing. More tourists are visiting our area than ever before. Highway 1 was widened to accommodate the increase in traffic, and Carmel's second homes and vacations homes are steadily rising. In this effort to support our tourist industry and vacation homes, our children often don't feel prioritized. We have amazing kids that live and love this area, but many times their presence is not celebrated. To save Carmel, we need to ensure that young people feel welcome here. By investing in our children today, we will reap the return when they come back to live, work, and thrive in our community. I want the younger generation to know that Carmel supports them and wants them to return to become citizens of this town. Thank you again for being part of this decision and for letting me share my thoughts.
Thank you, Seabury. Anne Marie?
Thank you. I wanted to add a couple of stray comments before I get into my full comments. The soccer headlights at the middle school, my daughter played soccer, and we actually had to turn the headlights on from the cars to be able to complete the games so that the kids could get through the games. JV often had to sacrifice their whole entire game because the varsity was playing. And I also wanted to say I was going through my mother's things, and in 1963, there was an article that I found related to something else at the bottom of the page where there were parents from Carmel schools that were complaining about crossing Highway 1 for their students and how it was impacting their lives. That was back in 1963, folks. So we've been dealing with this one for quite some time. My comments are, first off, I'd like to apologize to Dr. Knight for leaving several quagmires at his feet when he walked into this job, stadium lights being one of them. I feel that he has handled himself and shown the strength of his character, his intelligence, his wit, and grit. I've been most impressed and look forward to working with you for the foreseeable future. My fellow board members have held themselves in such high regard to me. The way they have handled themselves through all the comments and etc. has been admirable, and I respect and really appreciate each and every one of you. I'd like to thank Dr. Knight, his colleagues at the district office, our consultants at EMC and DWK, and the rest of the staff for going above and beyond to get us to this point. I'd like to thank the community for their thoughtful input, many contributions, and support throughout the years. Our district would not be where it is today without you. As you can imagine, this topic has weighed on my mind, as the rest of the board members, for the last several months. I have listened to community members, read copious amounts of literature and documents regarding environmental issues, and the entire document, all 2019 pages. It was a lovely birthday gift. I want to ask myself some questions and I've asked others these questions, alumni as well, that have gotten me to this moment. This district is unique in that it is quite large land-wise and has different ecosystems and terrains, but it has small student population. There are two large industries in the area, agriculture and tourism, which are often at odds with one another. We seem to find a balance to make it work. Carmel and its immediate surrounding area are the urban portion of our district, with the housing and services closely knitted together, with a major California highway running through it, all while still enjoying our beautiful scenery. The mostly rural portions of our district enjoy the quiet solitude and sounds of nature, with a solitary road leading the way home to the rest. As a school board member, I have to constantly remind myself why I'm here. It's for the students of this district. I have enjoyed many different roles in education over the 30-plus years. Those are the only ones that I'll admit to. And it all boils down to meeting the students' needs where they are at that moment in time. Over my time in the classroom, I have tried to find reasons for many of my former students to buy into staying in school and furthering their education. I found that sports has fit that reason. Whether it is the reason to keep their grades up so the student can qualify to play at the high school level, or it is the scholarship that the students can get to pay for college, it is sports that get them through to graduation. Sports are more important than ever as we can become a society dependent upon technology and we become more sedentary. Sports and exercise have proven beneficial to not only physical health, but to mental well-being. It leads to healthy habits that can last a lifetime. While we are a school district and we must concern ourselves with students' academics achievements most certainly, we must look at a student as whole and enrich their lives as best we can. As we added more sports to our athletic programs, our scholastic offerings, more career technical classes, and internships, the students' day is getting fuller and more enriched, but the day is running out of light, especially noted as we now move every day closer to winter. Some students are still on campus well past dark, not only for sports, but for drama, music rehearsals, dance, art, sports medicine, etc. For many other students, spirit and schools and student activities fulfill a crucial gap, and those activities often center around sports and sports teams. ASB activities, cheerleading, band, pep rallies are but a few. Teams provide community and a sense of belonging to others, especially noted after a period of isolation caused by the pandemic. Team sports and their practices were some of the first programs brought back as we moved into in-person education, all because it mattered to the students and was best for them. As noted by the recent release of scores, our students have not lost ground in their education during the pandemic and have in fact improved. I believe it is because we have listened to our students and met their needs where they are at currently. When we think about this issue broadly, we collectively benefit from focusing on the students and their needs at this moment in time. This community has always valued its schools, and in return, the school has produced a high demand for housing in this district, which has protected the local economy, especially during the last economic downturn. As a society, we set a high bar for our students by publishing test scores and ranking schools. Parents have a different set of expectations for their children. We must listen to what our students, children, want in return. They have done what is asked of them. Now we should reward them. They have asked for stadium lights. We have a symbiotic relationship here between the schools and community. Let's keep that strong and remember why we are here. It's for the students who are our future. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Anne Marie. Tess?
Thank you. This is making me very emotional, so I really appreciate your comments. So I've been reflecting on the various comments, emails, social media posts, flyers, and newspaper articles, all in regards to stadium lights. In the past several years, our students have been through some very difficult times. COVID impacted morale across the board. And now we have an incredible opportunity to change that. As a board, we've listened, we've heard all the feedback, and we've endured some strong criticism, verbal attacks, and anger. Some of you have been extremely gracious in your feedback, and for that I am truly grateful. I respect your feedback, opinions, and know this is a potential change in which the outcome is somewhat unknown. As a school board, it is our job to analyze the feedback, the data, and the information placed in front of us. It is also our job to hold the district accountable for mitigation strategies and an ever-evolving attempt at improving such strategies and learning from our mistakes. I ask you for grace. In the winter months, students are shipped off campus to play on various fields due to lack of daylight. These other fields are riddled with gopher holes and pose a serious risk of injury to our athletes with no access to sports med. Our students deserve the opportunity to stay home and utilize their field to its fullest potential. In addition, it is a huge safety concern to have several student drivers transporting students to practices off campus. Our staff deserve to stay home as much as possible to facilitate sports med needs and be there for our athletes. Our other students deserve to stay home and watch their friends compete and share in their athletic successes, especially those that do not yet drive. Our students deserve to take pride in our facilities and share the experience with other athletes across the county. Lights will enhance the high school experience for our next generation of students. When I was on the board for the Carmel High School Foundation and as a parent volunteer with the Carmel High School Foundation, we had a list of questions for potential scholarship recipients. When students were asked what is one thing they'd change about Carmel High, the answer was always school spirit and stadium lights. Lights and the ability to have more home night games and practices will provide that opportunity for our students. We all remember our high school experience and what those night games were like. It is a cherished memory that I hope we will now provide for our students. They deserve this, and we need to do this for them.
Thank you so much, Tess. Thank you all for your comments. I agree with so much that has been said already, and I too have been laboring over what I wanted to say this evening. Throughout this process, I have been so proud to be part of this team and to have had a tight view into what has been accomplished thus far. From the inception of this project, I have seen our Board of Education come together and work as a team to make sure we are educated, informed, and involved. I've witnessed the intense collaboration between the district office, staff, and our site leadership as they set out to do what is in the best interest of our students at Carmel Unified School District. This process has shown me again, as I have seen in times past, that we can get through difficult situations together. I've said this before, and I truly believe it, that we as a district are stronger and tougher when we come together and work together. Throughout this process, there have been many difficult conversations, healthy debates, more than a few personal attacks, and copious amounts of misinformation propagated. Throughout all of this, the Board of Education, the district office, staff, teachers, and students have continued to stay the course, be diligent, and purposeful in their actions. I deeply value all of the feedback we have received on this project. There have been excellent questions asked and concerns voiced, and I continue to be impressed by the amount of research, due diligence, and hard work that went into all of the mitigation strategies that have been presented and put forth. I value the spirit and passion I have witnessed on both sides of this issue. I value the new community partnerships that I have seen develop, and I'm proud of so many existing community partnerships that were made stronger because of this process. I would like to ultimately thank everybody involved during this process, even those who we have had difficult conversations with. I really do hope you have felt heard. I acknowledge that change is hard. I know firsthand change is grueling and incredibly uncomfortable, and it does not come easy for many of us. Tonight, I hope that we have come to a place where we can all move forward together in support of the next generation of students. We have the opportunity now to do what's in their best interest. I know that is my ultimate goal, and that is what is in my heart. Thank you. May I please receive a motion?
I move to adopt Resolution 22-19 with the following modification. The Mitigation Monitoring and Reporting Program, MMRP, currently referred to as Exhibit D in the resolution, is missing in addition to Mitigation Measure 52A that is contemplated and recommended in the final EIR. In the paragraph starting with practices, Mitigation Measure 52A should state, practices. All field sports practices shall end by 8 p.m. with lights turned off by 8:30. The school district shall also implement a practice lighting reduction measure, which will consist of dimming the stadium lights immediately after active field practice ends. This function shall be pre-programmed into the stadium lighting package by the school district at the beginning of each sports season for each sports team. Lighted practices will not be held on Saturdays and Sundays. The correct version of the MMRP is on file with the district and will be attached as Exhibit D in the final executed resolution if adopted. Accordingly, the motion is to adopt Resolution 22-19 to 1. Adopt and certify the final EIR for the project, 2. Adopt and approve the MMRP for the project with the correction noted, and 3. Adopt the environmental facts, findings, and statement of overriding considerations pursuant to CEQA for the project, and 4. Approve the project. It's a long motion.
May I please receive a second?
I second.
Board President Sarah Hines.
Yes.
Board Clerk Tess Arthur.
Yes.
Board Member Anne-Marie Rosen.
Yes.
Board Member Seabury Nachbar.
Yes.
Board Member Carl Palestrini.
Yes.
Agenda item 3, we will now adjourn to closed session. Before adjourning to close, I'll identify the closed session items. Agenda item 3A, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation pursuant to Government Code 54956.9, subdivision D2, significant exposure to litigation pursuant to Government Code 54956.9, subdivision D2-1 case. And with that, I will end this portion of the meeting. Thank you all for coming this evening and spending this time with us. Thank you all so much. Coming out of closed session, there's no items to report out on this evening. We'll consider this meeting adjourned. Thank you so much for attending and being with us here tonight.